All right. The first thing you want to educate the customer on is the promotion. The promotion is the digital home advantage. It's on your laminate. And the way you actually bridge from the contacting section into educating the customer is just asking a simple question, basically the reason I ask. As you remember in the contacting section, you asked questions like, do you live here? Do you have cable television? Do you watch it? Have you ever considered getting a satellite dish? And then you had the option of going in and talking about TiVo. One thing about asking them about TiVo, the whole time you're asking them questions and, like I said earlier, putting the spotlight on that customer and getting them to talk. The way I bridge into educating the customer is I say, the reason I ask, and they're wondering why you're asking the questions, so it really kind of brings their attention into it. The reason I ask, we've got a promotion where you can get the system for free, the installation's free, and the way it works is just like that. It's two sentences that kind of bridge it, and then you give them a quick overview, and then you get into the details. So for example, I would say, the reason I ask is we have a promotion called the Digital Home Advantage where you get the system for free, the installation's free, and the way it works is, and then you actually get into the actual details where you use the laminate and walk them down. The theory there being that you need to give them, people don't understand something the first time they hear it. So you give them a quick overview and then go through the details. As far as the promotion, the person pays a $49 activation fee and then they get that credited to their bill. If you want, you can, when you talk about the $49.99 activation fee, a really good way to talk about that is just say, you pay this, but then you get that as a credit on your bill. You may just want to say you pay $50 of programming in advance, okay? And then so that they understand that this is truly free. It's not like it's not an activation fee because they're getting all of that back. There's no fee. They're paying for a month and a half in advance. Okay. As far as what other things you need to educate the customer on is the programming. Now with the programming, that's going to be on the back side of your binder, and you have three basic packages: the top 60, the top 180, and the top 120. Excuse me, 60, 120, 180. And basically, the way this works is that the customer gets this all the time. If they get this, it adds these channels to that package, and if they get the 180, then they get all three of these tiers. A lot of times, people will ask, well, do you get this channel or something like that? Or they'll also ask, well, how much does it cost a month? Never blurt out a price that isn't correct. Don't say, well, it's going to be this, because you don't know exactly what that person's watching habits are. So make sure that you ask them, well, which channels do you watch? And then as they start to give you the channels, after a while, you're going to become very familiar with the packages so that you can just say, well, you're going to want to get this package because this is going to fit you the best. Now, one question that they're going to ask is, I only watch this particular channel in this whole group. Can I just add that channel to the top 60? 99% of the time, the answer is no. If you want to get a particular channel in here, you have to upgrade and get the entire package. There are a few times where that isn't the case. That's what I want to go over right now. It's called a la carte programming. And these a la carte programmings, they start off, first of all, the Encore package. That is going to be, it's a package that's in the top 180, and the channels that are included in that are going to be Encore itself, so 1, plus Love Stories, True Stories, Action Movies, so we got 4X, Mysteries, and 6 being Westerns. So those 6 channels, you can get all of those for $5.99, so for basically $1 per channel. There's also another channel called Bloomberg. This is a financial channel, and you can get that for $1.50 that you can add. There's also the Outdoor channel that a lot of hunters like. You can get that for $1.99. They used to offer the Golf channel as early as last year. It was an additional $5. They're no longer doing that, so that is not an a la carte channel. And then but one thing they have added is the Fox Sports. And basically Fox Sports is in the top 120, but if someone has a top 60 and the only channel that they watch from the top 120 is Fox Sports, they can add this channel for an additional $4.99 as well. So you're looking at basically those channels here. If there's any other channel that someone wants to ask if they can get a la carte and move and switch around, the answer is no, they cannot do that. They have to upgrade to the actual package. Let me give you some hints on how to overcome certain concerns while you're educating the customer when they say, I need a particular channel. Like in particular, there's a channel in the top 180 that a lot of times people get with basic cable. That basic cable, that channel is called Hallmark, and that comes in almost every basic cable package. And people that have basic cable, this is kind of like their movie channel because it has Westerns on it. Well, one thing that really helps you overcome that concern is if someone, they watch basically everything in the top 60 and the only thing that they want is the Hallmark channel, you cannot add the Hallmark channel to that, but even better is you can take these channels, these 6 Encore movie channels, and add those that includes Westerns, which competes with Hallmark better because there's no commercials in the movies. These are premium movie channels that are categorized in these different categories that you can add for $6, and so you can still beat the price of basic cable if you just take, when someone says, I need the Hallmark channel, what do you watch? Most of the time it's the Westerns or some movies that Hallmark has on Sunday nights or something. If that's the case, great. Just take those 6 Encore channels and add them to the top 60, and that works really well. So basically the promotion, you want to educate the customer very well with the promotion and the programming, but also you want to start to talk about the technology. What does Dish have to offer? And basically there are a few receivers that you want to become familiar with. The first, these are all ranked. There's a hierarchy of receivers. Those receivers, basically you can tell which ones are more expensive by the number that they start with. So like a 942 is, because it starts with a 9, like for example the next one would be an 811. The one after that would be a 625. There's a 522. There's a 510. There's a 322 and a 311. So there's quite a few different types of receivers. However, it's pretty easy to kind of remember how these things work. If it starts with a 3, anything that starts with a 3, this is a standard digital receiver. If it has a 2 right here, this just means it's a dual tuner. It can run 2 televisions. We will hardly ever sell this, if ever. The only time that you would actually need to sell this would be if someone were to get an 811, which this means if it has an 8, it's a high def receiver, high definition. If it has a 6 or a 5, one of these, then it's going to be a DVR. Okay? But the only time you'd ever sell this is if a person got an 811 plus a 522. This would run 1 television. As you can tell by this number right here, that means it runs 1 TV. This one would run 2 of them. If they had 4 televisions and they just needed a 4th TV hooked up, then you would give them a 311. But that's really the only time that you'd ever sell a 311. The 942 is the nicest one they can get. This is a high definition DVR. It runs 2 televisions, similar to a dual tuner, and it has picture-in-picture. That's why the 4 is in there. Now, there's a few things at the 942. Let me start with that right before we get into the others. The 942 does allow for picture-in-picture. So if someone has a television and they say, well, I have picture-in-picture, can I still use that? They can use picture-in-picture if they have a 942 or if they have a 522 or a 322, a dual tuner that is running just 1 television. If you had one dual tuner per TV, which is going to happen quite often. Okay. Another thing that it has is it has an on-screen program guide. That's basically a TV guide on your screen. This on-screen guide you have the ability to look to see what's going to be on 9 days in advance with the 942. You can look over a week in the future to see what's going to be on. So you can scroll ahead, select different programs that you'd like to watch, and the DVR will actually record that for you. In addition to that, it also has the ability, with the DVR, the time that's on the hard drive, there is 180 hours worth of record time on that hard drive for standard digital programming, and there's 25 hours of room for high definition. So this is standard and this is high def. 25 hours for high def, 180 for standard, and you can mix and match that. In other words, 10 hours of high def and then, I don't know, 100 or 90 hours of standard, something along those lines. It's going to work out that way. As far as, let me just kind of touch on a few other receivers, in particular the 811. If anybody has a high definition TV and they'd like to get this, give them the 811, meaning the 8 meaning high definition. This only can run one television, however. In addition to this, one thing about if they do get an 811 or a 942, if there's a high definition, anytime they add a high definition receiver, they also have to subscribe to the high definition programming, and that programming costs $9.99 extra per month. So if you look on your laminate, it's got the programming packages back here, and then it says down here, high definition receivers add $9.99. So you just add that $10 to whatever price is on here, and then they're going to get high definition channels included in that. The high definition channels that they're going to get is going to be TNT in high definition. Let me just write this down. You're going to get Discovery in high def. TNT, Discovery. There's a channel called High Def Movies, and you also have one called High Def Net, which is it's a network that just has high definition programs, like just all sorts of different things, different programs from sports to Discovery type things. There's also a ESPN channel in high def. And they can also get some local channels in certain markets if they offer those. In addition to that, all of these channels come for $9.99. If they happen to subscribe to HBO or Showtime, Showtime and HBO have a high definition channel, a channel that's included. It doesn't cost any extra, but if they subscribe to HBO or Showtime, then those channels will also be available for them to use on their high definition TV. Okay, in addition to the 811, there's also a 522, which is a DVR. The DVR basically gives the person the ability to pause TV, skip commercials, and so forth. If you refer to the actual laminate, it actually describes how to use the program and what it does for a person's life. It talks about pausing TV, and you can also just point out the actual button itself. And what that does is it kind of gives the customer an actual real, it becomes real to them, like, oh, okay, I can see where you push that button, it's going to pause your television. It talks about skipping recorded commercials. The way that works is that if you're watching a program, your phone rings, something's burning on the stove, you have to use the restroom, you need to help one of your kids, something like that, you can just pause your TV, and then when you come back to it, you're about 10 minutes behind or 30 minutes or however long you're behind live time. You can just hit this button, and when you get to a commercial, and it just skips time until you catch up to live time. Once you're at live, obviously you can't skip ahead. You can watch programs in half the time. How would that work? A lot of times people get into the habit of, they get so tired of commercials that if they want to watch the news, they just simply sit down, pause their program, read a book, cook a meal, clean the house, do something more productive with their time than watch commercials, and then come back to their program and skip all the commercials and literally watch something in half the time. Use instant replay and slow motion. If someone wants to do that, if they're watching sporting events, they can just push pause and then hit the fast forward button, and it starts going in slow motion. This button right here just skips back 10 seconds, so you have instant replay. Record up to 100 hours. The 522 has a hard drive with 100 hours worth of space on it that you can record programs on. Anyway, so that just kind of gives you an idea of what the 522 can do. It runs 2 televisions, so you're going to have one TV with the receiver by it, and it's going to run that TV, and there's another remote control that goes to another television, and they both of those TVs can watch different channels at the same time. Both of those TVs can pause and skip commercials and use all the features of a DVR, And both of those TVs share the same hard drive. So if you record something on a bedroom TV, you can watch it on the living room TV and vice versa. Now, with that said, what's the difference between a 522 and a 625? A 625 is a DVR as well, but another thing about a 625 is that it not only does it have 100 hours to just record stuff like that you want to record, like the DVR or the 522, but it also has something called Dish on Demand, which basically competes with video on demand that cable has. Basically, it's a hard drive that Dish puts programming in, so if you want to watch a particular movie or a particular program, you can just go there, and most of the time it's already in there. So you can just select those programs and watch them whenever you want, and whenever is convenient for you. That's the amazing part about this receiver right here. Okay, and then there's the base model, which is basically a 322. The DVR, the reason someone might want to get this versus a DVR, why wouldn't someone want to get that? There's a $498 extra service charge to actually use the DVR features, and so their bill on the back of the laminate, you'll see it. The price is in red. They're just an additional $498 as compared to the normal channels. If someone doesn't want to get the DVR features and they want to save that extra $5, then they'll go with a 322, which is a normal receiver signified by the 3, and then the 2 means it can run 2 different TVs independent of each other. Now, one thing that we're doing this year, in the past we couldn't really sell the dual tuners like the 522 and the 322 as much because it included extra installation fees and so forth that were difficult to, and it tied up the time of the installer. Now, with the changes to the technology and so forth, the installation is actually much easier, much easier than it was in the past, and so there is no extra installation fees. But this is one thing that we want to make sure that you get in the habit of doing. You can always compete with cable prices with 1 or 2 TVs. That's never been an issue. It's always been in the 3rd and 4th television. In addition, you're paid extra for a second receiver, and if a customer wants to, if they have 2 TVs now, there's a very high probability that they're going to get a 3rd or 4th TV in the future. And so what we have here, and it kind of shows you this on the back of the laminate, but if someone has 2 TVs in a home, you want to give them a receiver here and a receiver here. You have the ability to run 4 televisions with those receivers, but if you give them a 522 on their main TV and maybe a 322 on their other television, this TV, you can always, the minute they get a 3rd TV, you can mirror that, and they have the ability to expand in the future. Many times people will get a dish, and then a few months down the road they get another TV, and they say, well, can I get an extra dish or an extra receiver? And in the past, they would have had to have bought an expensive L&B, which would have cost them over $100, and then the receiver. So they're looking at $200 in upgrade fees, and made them very angry. The point here is that if they have 2 TVs, give them 1 receiver per television, 1 receiver per TV, and then the 3rd and 4th TV, it's gravy. The customer doesn't have to pay anything extra to get that. If they have to add a 3rd or 4th TV, they're already set up to do that. Okay. Now I want to cover a little bit about the installation, because it's important that you understand what is involved in the installation of a satellite dish, so that you can speak intelligently to the customer, so that when they ask you questions, they feel confident in you, that you're able to be honest with them, and especially when it comes to installing something on their home, they want to make sure that it's taken care of. If you don't know the answer to something, just say, I don't know, let me make a phone call, but don't lie. It's never worth it to lie. It's not worth your integrity for the sale. I mean, how much would you sell that integrity for? It's definitely not worth any amount of money, let alone what you'd make on one sale. So just don't lie. That's the first principle. But secondly, the way that this works is if we were to draw a home here, most of the time, a satellite dish, when we install it, is always going to be over the eave. In other words, this part of the roof. And it always faces south. Always. So when you're knocking in a neighborhood, you're walking door to door, you want to look to the southern sky to make sure that they don't have anything blocking their line of view. Now, if they have a really large tree right here, cover it, and you can't put a dish there, that's okay. They can move the dish over to this side of the house, And the signal comes in at about a 45-degree angle. So it would still clear it, but obviously it wouldn't there. So they could move the dish to this side of the home. Most of the time they also attach the dish to the eave or the fascia board on an eave, which basically makes it so that it's never on top of the roof causing any leaking problems or anything like that. Obviously the installers are going to seal that up and make sure that there aren't any problems, but still, if you can avoid it, then you will. With this installation, let me give you an idea of how this works. Obviously the dish is installed here. On almost every home there's going to be a cable box. In this cable box there's going to be a whole bunch of cables that come out. Okay, and then those cables run to all the different outlets throughout the home. Now, what happens in the installation is from the dish they take a cable and they're going to run, let's say it's a 2 television hookup. And we're going to put 2 receivers in there. Let's say it's 3 TVs just for sake of argument here, which is the average anyway. So there's 3 rooms. TV here, here, and here. From the dish, the installer is going to run 2 cables into the cable box. And then it uses the existing cable, and you're going to put a box here, and let's say a box here. From the cable box, the cable is going to run to those receivers, just like this. And then with the technology changes from last year, what's incredible is that the signal actually goes up those exact same wires that were used before, back here, and then to this other TV. So this is why this other TV doesn't need a box. Like this one, for example, the signal comes into this box, out the same line it came in, and then down into this cable that leads to that 3rd television. Hopefully I hope that doesn't confuse you, but if it does, don't worry about it. You know, you just need to know basically the generals about how the installation works. In addition, there's an installation DVD, and if you want to know the actual details on how an installation works, I recommend just picking that up and watching it so you understand exactly what the installer has to go through to get it. But this is just a general idea, general overview of how that's going to work. Okay. Now let me kind of go over some frequently asked questions that happen, that you get quite often when you're as a result of educating the customer. A lot of times they'll ask you why you need to collect a credit card. Let me first of all explain what the best way to collect a credit card. When you have the laminate before you, right after you get done explaining the promotion, as you go through the promotion, which I'm going to describe in greater detail how to do this in the closing section, because as you go through educating the customer, you need to be closing constantly. But at the end of this, down here on the bottom of the promotion, it says the customer must provide a valid credit card and SSN, or social security number. What I like to do is I just point to this credit card so that they see if they see it in print and hear it, it's not you asking for a credit card, it's the promotion, if that makes sense. So you just simply turn this up to them, point to that, and say, in order to qualify, you have to have a credit card that has at least $1 worth of room on it. Is that a problem? Don't ever ask for a credit card unless you include on the back of that has at least $1 worth of room on it. I have found that most of the time people don't even ask a follow-up question if you add that. If you just say, I don't need a credit card, they're going to say, well, why do you need it? And be concerned about it. But if you just say, we need a credit card that has at least $1 worth of room on it, most of the time they're apt to just go, okay, that's not a problem. So again, you say, it has at least $1 worth of room on it, and then ask, actually, is that a problem? Most of them, oh no, I've got that. Okay, good. And then you go to the social, and you say, and then they also require a social to verify that you've never been with Dish before. And then I say, and then you've never been with Dish before, have you? And they say no. Okay. If they have been with Dish, obviously you should have found that out earlier. You know, and most of the time you do, but you can't sell to a pre-existing customer. So anyway, with that said, let me talk about the credit card a little bit more. The reason they ask for a credit card isn't just because they need a credit card that has $1 worth of room on it. Basically, it's a form of credit check. If a person has a credit card that has $1 worth of room on it, then basically they have got enough credit to have a credit card, and the credit card isn't maxed. Great. In addition to that, they're giving, like for example, those receivers that we went over, the 942, 625, those are very expensive receivers, hundreds and hundreds of dollars. You can give a person over $1,000 worth of equipment. Dish wants to have that credit card in case that person cancels before their year contract is up or something like that, so that they can actually redeem some of the money. Same with iSatellite, we have a contract as well. And so that's another reason I don't like to bring that up, because they don't, ultimately what they need to know is nothing's going to happen with their credit card as long as they keep the service on for at least 12 months. As far as the social, the reason they need that is obviously they're going to do a credit check. In order to do a credit check, they need to have that social. But like I said earlier, they also need to know that this person has never been a customer before. And the way they match that is if their last name and the social match, it'll come up, this person's been a previous customer. Okay, other question you get quite often is move. What if I move within a year? So you're to explain the promotion. Why don't you try it out, 12-month commitment. They say, what if I move before the year's up? Basically, Dish has a Dish Mover program, which means that the customer can move anywhere in the United States, leave the dish on the home, and then take the receivers with them, take the 2 boxes with them. Wherever they go, they just take the receivers and the remote controls with them, leave the dish, get to their new home, call up Dish Network, and Dish will come out and put a new dish up for them on their new home. And they will do that for them for free if the customer has a top 180. If they have the top 120, it costs $25. If they have the top 60, it costs $99. So it's always worth their time to upgrade to a different package. As far as another question they ask is, can I cancel? What if I don't like it? Can I cancel? The answer is no, they can't. There's a year commitment. They have to keep it on for at least 12 months. However, let them know. I mean, what is there really? It's television, and it's not like, they're going to absolutely hate it. But this is another really good reason for you to be extremely honest with the customer. Don't lie about the bill, what the bill's going to be. They're going to receive a bill in about 10 days. They're going to know if you are being truthful with them or not. So don't lie about it, because it never does you any good. And then they'll want to cancel. Make sure that you explain exactly how it works. Make sure that they're familiar with all the different fees and so forth, if there are any, like the DVR, or if they want to get a high definition receiver. And make sure that they know, I mean, if they do want to cancel, what I tell them, like if they say, well, what if I lose my job? I can't cancel then? Normally what I say is, let's say 8 months down the road, you lose your job. Okay, what you need to do is, instead of accruing any cancellation fees, just drop the programming down the most basic package at $31.99 and pay the additional, and pay for the rest of the 4 months on your 12 months. So basically, and then I ask them, I say, would it be fair? Like if it's about a $120 cancellation penalty, you think that'd be fair if we gave you all this for free and the installation's free? Most of the time they say yes. So, and normally that's not a big deal. And then finally, I just kind of want to go over the weather. A lot of times people ask if it goes out in weather. What you need to understand about a satellite dish is that it actually is 99.7% accurate all the time. It hardly ever goes out. However, when it does go out, it's in severe weather, or if the installation is not good. And for example, I'm in Utah with the severe weather that we have here, or even I have family that lives in Wyoming, and they have very severe weather. The dish hardly ever goes out in blizzards, and even something like that. Most of the areas that we go to don't even have snow, and so most of the time it's not even an issue. But if there is an issue, it has to do with installation. And the way that works is, if this is a satellite dish and it was pointed, if it was pointed at the satellite and it had a 70% signal, and it'll get a perfect picture. You would not be able to tell the difference between a satellite dish that had 100% and 70% signal. No difference whatsoever. However, the windstorm came, it started to snow or rain or something like that, and the signal or the dish were to move a little bit. If it had 100% signal and moved it down to 70% and in bad weather, no problem. Obviously, your picture's going to be perfect. However, if the installer didn't do that good of a job, and the dish had a 70% signal and some bad weather came and moved it down to 50%, that's when you start having issues. So if the installation is fine, then weather is not an issue. Okay, and then I also want to talk about warranties. There is a warranty that Dish Network offers for their customers, and with a Digital Home Advantage, when they sign up for that year, they are covered if anything happens for that receiver. However, iSatellite sells a warranty for only $40 that covers this equipment for 5 years, basically 60 cents a month, and it covers extremely expensive equipment. And we recommend that. I recommend it highly, especially any of the people that get the 625, the 522, the 942, because those have hard drives, and getting a warranty on a hard drive for 60 cents a month is worth it in my mind. Okay. Let me also just go over a little bit more about the programming and how to educate the customer in regards to that, because that's going to be the most often asked question. Is they want to make sure that they're going to get the channels that they already have. Now, when you're talking to a customer and they're going to ask, well, which channels do you get? One of the problems that I've noticed with people is that, or salespeople in general, is that they'll say, well, you get this and this and this, and they start naming off channels. Don't ever name off channels. Because if I'm speaking to someone and I assume that they like a certain, what channels do you get? And I start naming off, well, you get ESPN, you get Fox Sports, and I think the person likes sports. And then after the end of it, they're like, well, that's fine, but I don't even watch sports. That's why when they say, what channels do you get? Just follow that up with a quick question, which channels do you watch? And if they're going to give you those channels, and then you can start to place them in the correct package and then quote them a price. Just know this, though. If a customer was to get... If they say, well, where do you think I should, I don't know, maybe I should start off with this, the top 180, 120. I normally recommend them to start off with the lowest package that they can, because a lot of times they'll get the low package, they're paying less, they're happy, and they may not even miss a channel that they think is important to them. So start with the smaller one. If they really feel like they need to add an additional channel, then they can just call Dish Network at the time that you're there, or whether you're not there. I mean, if they have the dish for 2 weeks, and they decide, you know, I really like to have this particular channel, they can get on the phone with Dish, give them a call, and while they're on the phone, they'll see the channels pop up on their screen. So adding programming at any time is not a problem. However, if you started them off with the 180 or the 120 and they said, you know, I just don't need this much programming, and they were to call and downgrade, then Dish charges them $4.99 to downgrade. So there's a downgrade fee. There is no fee for upgrading. That's why I always suggest that a person starts with the most basic package that they can. And then if they feel like they need more, they can always add it. Well, that's basically it for educating the customer. Most of the time with this, you're going to start to get more familiar with the product, and this is going to become second nature to you. But just recognize that that as you educate, if you don't know an answer, please just say that. Just tell the customer, you know, I don't know. Let me make a phone call and find out. Call your manager, call someone else, find the answer to that. Also, when you need to find out something about Dish in particular, just give Dish Network a call. Don't, you know, clutter up your manager with a lot of phone calls that you can find, if you can find it out from Dish. So if they ask, well, do you get this channel? Do you get this channel? Or, you know, or is there any tax on this or whatever? Just give Dish Network a call and ask them that question, and Dish will be able to answer most of those questions. With that said, I'll see you in Resolving Concerns.